Here in the far North Atlantic, where the wind slices across frozen plains and volcanoes breathe beneath a crust of ice, there's a place where something impossible happens. People leave their doors unlocked. In Iceland, a land carved by fire and wrapped in glaciers, safety is not a rule enforced by fear, but a quiet rhythm woven through everyday life. Dawn breaks over black lava fields, steam rises from hidden hot springs, and tiny houses stand open to the cold as if they have nothing to hide. Travelers expect danger in a landscape this wild, yet what they find is a nation so peaceful, so trusting, that crime feels like a foreign concept. Why do Icelanders live this way? What shaped this extraordinary culture of openness? Today, the world takes you to a land where the harshest nature has created the warmest hearts and where a locked door is the strangest thing of all. The land of fire and ice. Iceland's landscape looks less like a country and more like a distant planet, a vast world sculpted by glaciers, volcanoes, and ancient storms that left behind fields of shattered black lava stretching into the horizon. Silence sits heavy in the air, the kind of deep resonant quiet you only find where nature is still the dominant force. Snow-capped mountains rise like frozen giants, geysers exhale scalding steam from the Earth's crust, and crystal rivers carve silver paths through valleys coated in bright green moss. In winter, the sky erupts with the electric glow of the northern lights swirling over frozen plains, while in summer, the sun refuses to set, draping the land in a soft golden haze that lasts all night. This raw, overwhelming environment shapes not only how Icelanders live, but how they think. Life here must be simple, cooperative, and respectful of nature's moods. When the land itself can change in minutes, when storms roll in without warning and volcanoes sleep lightly, people learn to depend on each other more than on walls or locks. And in a place where the most powerful threats come from wind, ice, and fire, the idea of locking your door feels unnecessary, almost strange. The landscape itself teaches trust. Open doors and transparent living. Icelandic architecture reflects a culture built on simplicity, openness, and an unspoken agreement that no one has anything to hide. Houses here are modest in size but striking in form, often painted in bright blues, reds, and yellows that stand out against the stark Arctic landscape. Most homes have large windows inviting natural light during the long, dark winters, creating a sense of warmth and connection between the indoors and the wild world outside. What surprises visitors most is not the design itself, but the attitude behind it. Doors are often left unlocked, porches unguarded, and many homes don't even have fences. Neighborhoods blend naturally into nature, with streets where children play freely and strangers walk without suspicion. Even in Reykjavik, the capital, the architectural style favors transparency and functionality over barriers and privacy. Buildings feel honest, clean lines, open layouts, and communal spaces that encourage interaction. This is not a society built on fortresses or gated communities. It is a society built on trust. In small towns, it is common to walk into a store that has no staff present. Just a note asking customers to write down what they took and leave money in a box. Historic turf houses with their grass-covered roofs also reflect this old spirit of openness. Simple dwellings without heavy locks, designed for shelter rather than defense. In Iceland, architecture is more than design. It is a quiet declaration that safety comes from community, not from closed doors. The taste of a harsh land. Icelandic cuisine is a direct reflection of a land where survival once depended on making the most of whatever nature offered, no matter how harsh or unpredictable. With long winters, scarce farmland, and an ocean that both nourished and threatened, Icelanders developed a food culture that is simple, honest, and deeply rooted in necessity. Fresh fish remains the heart of daily life. Cod, haddock, Arctic char, served grilled, steamed, or dried in the cold northern wind until it becomes hard as wood and rich in flavor. Lamb, raised freely on open highlands, tastes clean and wild, a reminder of the animal's life spent roaming volcanic plains. Then there is skyr, the iconic Icelandic dairy staple, thick, tangy, creamy, and eaten as breakfast, dessert, or even a main meal. Much of the traditional cuisine comes from methods meant to outsmart winter: fermentation, salting, curing, and drying. Some dishes, like the famous fermented shark, challenge visitors with their sharp oceanic punch, a relic of times when food preservation meant survival, not taste. Bread baked in geothermal heat offers a softer contrast, warm and subtly sweet. pulled straight from the earth itself. Modern Icelandic food blends these traditions with a fresh Nordic approach, using clean ingredients, seasonal flavors, and minimal seasoning to let the purity of the land speak. In a country where doors are left unlocked and life flows with quiet honesty, the cuisine mirrors the people, straightforward, resilient, and shaped by centuries of learning to trust both nature and one another. Life in raw nature. Daily life in Iceland is inseparable from the rough, breathtaking wilderness that surrounds every town, farm, and fishing village. Here, hands-on experiences are not weekend hobbies. They are woven into the rhythm of survival and tradition. Children grow up learning to hike across moss-covered lava fields, to read shifting weather like a language, and to move confidently in landscapes that would intimidate most travelers. Fishing is more than an industry. It is a ritual rooted in generations, with families heading out onto icy waters where the Atlantic meets the Arctic, trusting their skills and the sea in equal measure. On land, farm work requires real physical strength, tending free-roaming sheep across rocky highlands, repairing fences bent by winter storms, and gathering hay before the chills return. Even leisure activities demand a closeness to nature, swimming in outdoor pools heated by geothermal energy, bathing in hot springs hidden between mountains, riding sturdy Icelandic horses through windswept valleys, or trekking across glaciers that crack and groan beneath your feet. Icelanders embrace the elements rather than hide from them, believing that time spent outdoors strengthens the body and clears the mind. This hands-on lifestyle also reinforces trust within the community. When you depend on others during a sudden storm, a risky climb, or a long fishing expedition, you learn the value of reliability and cooperation. And in a place where everyone is accustomed to facing raw nature together, mistrust becomes unnecessary. It is this daily engagement with the land, physical, honest, humbling, that shapes the Icelandic spirit and quietly supports a culture where open doors feel completely natural. A community shaped by survival. The history of Iceland is a story carved into volcanic rock and carried across storm-torn seas, beginning with the arrival of Norse settlers more than 1,000 years ago. These early Vikings found an empty, unforgiving island of ice, fire, and violent weather, yet they stayed, forming scattered communities that relied entirely on one another to withstand the long winters. There were no kings, no castles, no noble class to divide society. Instead, Iceland built one of the world's earliest parliaments, the Alþingi, founded in the late 9th century, where free farmers gathered to settle disputes and shape laws through open dialogue rather than force. For centuries, isolation defined Icelandic life, cut off by freezing oceans. The population remained small and tightly knit, forming a society where cooperation was essential and betrayal was unthinkable. Homes were simple turf structures, livestock was precious, and every family depended on neighbors during storms, eruptions, and food shortages. Hardship did not breed conflict here, it bred unity. When famine struck, people shared what little they had. When volcanic ash buried farmlands, entire regions moved together like one extended family. This collective memory of survival has seeped into modern culture, creating an unusual social foundation. Icelanders trust one another because their ancestors had no choice but to trust. Even today, the idea of locking a door feels out of place in a society shaped by centuries of mutual dependence and openness. In Iceland, history is not just the past, it is the quiet heartbeat that still guides how people live, act, and treat each other. Why Icelanders trust instinctively. The people of Iceland are shaped by the same forces that shape their landscape: resilience, clarity, and an almost instinctive sense of community born from centuries of living on an isolated island. With a population barely larger than that of a small town elsewhere, nearly everyone is connected by just 1 or 2 degrees of separation, giving everyday interactions the warmth and ease of a large extended family. Icelanders grow up in an environment where cooperation is not merely encouraged, but necessary. From helping neighbors dig out cars buried under sudden snowstorms to sharing supplies during harsh winters. Children learn early that trust is a normal part of life, not a risk, and this fundamental belief follows them into adulthood. Icelandic culture values honesty over appearances, humility over competition, and action over empty words. People speak directly, respect personal space, and rely on mutual support rather than suspicion. There is no social pressure to prove oneself through wealth or status because here, equality and independence define identity more than material possessions. Perhaps most telling is the way Icelanders handle everyday situations, leaving belongings unattended in cafes, lending tools without paperwork, and treating strangers with the same openness reserved for friends. These behaviors are not seen as extraordinary, but as an expected part of being Icelandic, and in a place where crime is almost non-existent. The idea of locking a door seems unnecessary, almost unfriendly. The people themselves are the security system, bound not by fear but by a deeply rooted cultural understanding that trust strengthens the entire community. Legends, spirits, and a culture of harmony. Icelandic beliefs weave together ancient Norse traditions, nature worship, and a quiet reverence for forces that cannot be seen but are deeply felt. Though modern in technology and lifestyle, Iceland remains spiritually tied to the land, with many people embracing the old stories of elves, hidden folk, and protective spirits that inhabit rocks, hillsides, and lava fields. These myths are not treated as childish fantasies, but as cultural truths that shape how Icelanders relate to their environment. Roads have been deliberately rerouted to avoid disturbing supposed elf dwellings. Construction projects have been paused until spiritual concerns were addressed. And numerous Icelanders openly admit they don't believe in elves, but won't deny their existence either. This respectful uncertainty reflects a worldview that values harmony over dominance and coexistence over conflict. Underneath these legends lies a deeper philosophy. Nature is alive, powerful, and deserving of respect. The land provides warmth through geothermal energy, food through the sea, and danger through storms and eruptions, so Icelanders treat it with gratitude rather than fear. Old Norse values, courage, honesty, community, still echo in modern life, blending seamlessly with Christianity, which arrived later and was adopted in a notably peaceful manner. These layered beliefs create a cultural atmosphere where aggression feels out of place and humility becomes the natural way of being. And when people live with a constant awareness of forces larger than themselves, whether mythological or environmental, they learn to value peace, cooperation, and trust. In such a mindset, locks and barriers feel unnecessary. Harmony, both spiritual and social, becomes the real form of protection. A high-tech society with a simple heart. Modern Iceland is a paradox wrapped in ice and steam, a nation with some of the world's most advanced infrastructure, yet a Shihoi culture that remains disarmingly simple, transparent, and human. Nearly all energy comes from renewable sources, geothermal heat from the earth, and endless hydropower from glacial rivers, so homes stay warm even in brutal winters without the financial strain felt elsewhere. The internet is fast, public services are efficient, and government transparency is so high that corruption is nearly non-existent. Yet, despite all this technological progress, Icelanders resist the rush and noise that usually accompany modernization. Cities remain quiet, uncluttered, and walkable. Neighborhoods feel more like villages where people know each other's names and children wander freely without fear. Police rarely carry weapons, choosing dialogue over intimidation, and their presence feels friendly rather than authoritative. Work culture here values balance. Leaving the office early to spend time in nature is normal, not frowned upon. Even Reykjavik, the capital, blends sophistication with an almost rural sense of trust. Cafes leave blankets outside for customers. Shops use honor system payment boxes, and community pools serve as casual meeting places where people from all backgrounds mix naturally. The simplicity of Icelandic life comes not from a lack of modernity, but from a deliberate choice to keep technology from overshadowing human connection. This blend of innovation and humility shapes a society where crime remains astonishingly rare and distrust feels foreign. In such a place, locked doors would only disrupt the quiet, gentle rhythm of everyday life. Here, modern convenience coexists with ancient openness, creating a lifestyle that feels both futuristic and timeless. The logic-defying wonders of Iceland. Iceland is a nation built on contradictions so striking that they seem almost impossible, yet they define everyday life in the most natural way. Visitors are often stunned the moment they step into an Icelandic town and realize that cars sit outside homes with engines running, doors unlocked, and no one in sight. In cafes, laptops, wallets, and phones are left on tables, while their owners step out for long walks, trusting that everything will still be there when they return. Children nap outside in strollers during winter, wrapped in warm blankets, while parents shop or relax inside restaurants because cold air is seen as healthy and crime is virtually non-existent. In some rural villages, you can walk into a small store with no cashier, take what you need, and simply leave money in a box by the door. Even more unbelievable are the tiny communities that have gone decades without a single reported crime. Yet this openness exists in one of the harshest environments on Earth, where storms can swallow roads and volcanoes can alter the landscape overnight. Icelanders lock away their fear for nature, not for each other. The country is both isolated and globally connected, fiercely modern yet steeped in ancient traditions, a place where the midnight sun floods the sky for endless hours while winter plunges the land into months of darkness. And somehow, through all these extremes, the heart of Iceland remains steady. Peaceful, trusting, and profoundly safe, it is a place that defies logic but thrives because of it, proving that trust can flourish even in the world's most unforgiving landscapes. The soul of Iceland. As the final light of an Arctic sunset melts into the horizon, painting the snowfields in shades of amber and violet, Iceland reveals its true soul, a quiet, enduring spirit shaped by fire, ice, and the unbreakable bond between people who learned to trust long before locks existed. In the rising steam of geothermal pools, in the soft crunch of steps on fresh snow, in the stillness of a midnight sun that refuses to sleep, you feel a truth that defines this land. Safety here is not enforced, it is lived. Icelanders do not rely on walls or gates to protect their homes, they rely on one another. For generations, they have faced storms, eruptions, and isolation together, and those shared struggles forged a rare kind of unity. Even today, in a digital age filled with noise and suspicion, Iceland holds on to a gentler rhythm, a reminder that life can be honest, open, and profoundly peaceful. Once you witness a village where every door stands unlocked in the cold wind, or a town square where children play freely beneath the northern lights, something changes in the way you understand trust. Iceland stays with you long after you leave, like the echo of waves crashing against black sand shores, or the glow of auroras flickering behind your eyes. And now, as this journey ends, a simple question remains. Would you dare to live in a place where everyone believes in the goodness of others? If you enjoyed this journey, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell, and share this video with someone who loves mysterious places and the hidden stories behind them.